universities under investigation.
Are we doing this in the right way?
For alleged anti-Semitic incidents. Inflation slowing down.
That adds an upside risk to inflation in the months ahead.
For the first time in 4 months. And swatting mosquitoes away.
We're knocking down that population.
With a new tool in Lee County. These stories and more coming up on Newsbreak.
Hello, South Florida. I'm Julian Lascano.
I'm Samantha Gutierrez. Today is Thursday, March 13th, 2025.
Live from the Lee Caplin School of Journalism and Media in North Miami, this is Caplin News.
Consequences for universities across the nation underway for possible civil rights violations. The Department of Justice plans to investigate George Washington University as one of the 10 universities listed for anti-Semitic incidents since October 2023 Hamas attack.
The school made headlines last week when a 2-week pro-Palestine encampment saw hundreds of protesters gathered on campus, ending in 33 arrests. Our D.C. correspondent Isabel Rivera is live from Washington, D.C. with more on the story. Good morning, Isabel.
Good morning, Sam and Julian. I am at GW's campus, where the Federal Task Force to Combat Anti-Semitism will soon be paying a visit. Now, the team is the direct result of one of President Trump's first-week executive orders to eradicate what it's calling on-campus harassment of Jewish students. Take a look. The task force intends to meet with university leadership, students, and law enforcement to consider whether such incidents warrant consequences that still remain unspecified. Dr. Omar Mohammed of the university's program on extremism believes the DOJ's involvement is long overdue.
I think now there is an important state entity, that is the DOJ task force, that needs to go to universities, meet with faculty, meet with the students, assess the situation, see what is needed.
But some students are hesitant to take the task force's goals at face value.
Given the administration's other actions against higher education, I do see it as a bit of a weaponization against a lot of higher education institutions.
Others feel that both curriculum and classroom discourse already reflect a fair and safe space for both sides.
And everything seems to be super open to debate. Like, we feel super welcomed here. We feel super, like, the open-mindedness feels very relevant here.
Meanwhile, the Department of Education warns that federal funding may be revoked for universities in violation of Title VI of the Civil Rights Act, which prohibits discrimination. The agency addressed 60 universities currently under scrutiny on March 10. Unlike GW, DC's American University was the district's only school to make the list.
The universities are the places where our future generation is being prepared. So we do have the right to know, are we doing this in the right way?
Earlier this week, the federal government canceled $400 million in funding to Columbia University for what it's calling inaction in combating discrimination. As for GW, the DOJ has yet to reveal when the university will be investigated. Reporting live from Washington, D.C. for Caplin News, I'm Isabel Rivera.
Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer released his first statement about his party strategy ahead of the upcoming Friday shutdown deadline. Schumer said Democrats have the votes to block the House-passed GDP spending bill. He called on Senate Republicans to cut a deal with Democrats on a short-term spending bill. Meanwhile, they continue negotiating full-year appropriations.
Inflation fell for the first time in months, according to a federal report released Wednesday. But many economists warn this news could be short-lived. Here's what these numbers all mean for your wallet.
The Consumer Price Index measures price changes for a variety of goods and services.
This month was really the first progress we'd seen toward moving inflation down closer to that 2%.
Greg McBridge with Bankrate says the Federal Reserve wants to see inflation closer to 2% before dropping interest rates. According to the latest report, inflation is at 2.8% for 12 months ending in February. But McBridge warns this good news could be short-lived.
With tariffs looming, that adds an upside risk to inflation in the months ahead.
President Donald Trump announced tariffs on imports from America's largest trade partners, China, Canada, and Mexico, as well as 25% taxes on all steel and aluminum imports. Wednesday's U.S. tariffs were met with swift retaliation from Europe, imposing tariffs to up to $28 billion worth of U.S. goods exports. The markets were mixed at close Wednesday.
The economy is strong. It came into the year doing very well, but it can't digest the kind of tariffs that we're talking about.
If they're facing less price competition from foreign competitors, they're likely to boost their prices too.
All this comes as cost of living is already high for many Americans, and this latest report shows shelter prices, which measures housing costs, went up 0.3% last month.
The pressure on household budgets has been really unrelenting.
Overall, food prices went up 0.2%. Egg prices shot up 10.4% in February, the biggest jump. Prices also went up for beef, meats, poultry, and fish, as well as cereal and bakery products. The good news is gas prices dipped 1% last month.
America's top trading partners, Canada, Mexico, and China, had been the targets of Trump's tariff back and forth, but the tariffs on steel and aluminum mark the first time in Trump's second term that a set of tariffs has been applied to all countries.
As mosquito season quickly approaches, a Florida county is presenting a tool that can lower the population of these insects.
Caplin News reporter Valentina Gaspari is live with more on the new program. Good morning, Valentina.
That's right, Samantha, Julian. These two gadgets are no strangers to Floridians when it comes to mosquito bites. In fact, I felt one on my arm minutes ago. That's why the Lee County is issuing this new program to not eliminate the population of mosquitoes, but to rather sterilize them. You might not hear it or see it, but you'll eventually feel it when that backyard mosquito bites. The Lee County Mosquito Control District started a new program to decrease the number of Aedes aegypti, the backyard mosquito that can also spread diseases.
Sterilized insect program that we have is really exciting and amazing. We're starting to see some really great results.
Jennifer McBride says they're the first mosquito control district to ever do this. Essentially, their scientists sterilize male mosquitoes, then release them in a neighborhood like the photos you see here. Those mosquitoes mate with females, which lay eggs that are not viable.
We actually will lower the number of mosquitoes that we're releasing because we're knocking down that population.
The district still uses chemicals and pesticides, which they say are not harmful to people, to control the other 53 types of mosquitoes in Lee County.
We're not looking for just treating mosquitoes, controlling mosquitoes in one way. We need lots of tools in the toolbox.
Jennifer says mosquito control districts across the country will use this program, as well as other countries like Brazil. And while mosquitoes are a pest, Jennifer says it's important to remember they are vital to the environment because they are pollinators and a source of food for other insects and animals.
We don't eradicate them, we're controlling them so that there's less numbers out there, so less of a chance for a public health threat.
This new program is in its beginning stages in Lee County and could soon end up right here in South Florida. We're live in North Miami. I'm Valentina Gaspari, Caplin News.
This morning, the investigation continues after an off-duty officer shot a 70-year-old man on the expressway in Jacksonville. WFOX's Jake Soffin has more on the story.
Off-duty Lieutenant Mark Crawford was on his way home from work when JSO says his unmarked car came into contact with a semi-truck driven by a 70-year-old man.
We don't know the context of that at this point. It appears they may have contacted each other more than once.
Chief Alan Parker says at some point Crawford got out of his car and fired 4 rounds into the semi-truck. The semi-truck driver was not hurt.
The rounds went into the kind of the front side where the engine is, the engine bay of the vehicle, and one skipped up.
Investigators say the lieutenant went to the hospital with a shoulder injury, and the semi-truck driver was being fully cooperative and even offered to give police dash cam video. According to JSO, this is Crawford's 4th officer-involved shooting. We reached out to JSO asking for the specifics of the other 3 shootings Crawford was involved with, whether he used his JSO-issued gun in Monday's shooting, and whether the truck driver was armed. We're still awaiting answers. As of Monday night, no arrests had been announced, and the reason for the shooting was still unclear.
That's what we're trying to figure out. That's why anybody has any information, we would please have you guys call in. We haven't gotten a statement from him yet. He's at the hospital, and the other guy is being cooperative, but he kind of doesn't remember a lot of what happened is what he's telling us.
2 people were involved in a small plane crash in Orlando. The crash occurred yesterday. According to the Orange County Fire and Rescue Department, the Cessna airplane had to make an emergency landing near the Orlando International Airport 10 miles away. The aerial mapping company said they owned the plane and their employees were inside. A large fuel spill happened, causing the Environmental Protection Department to rush to the scene. Both employees on board the plane were not injured.
A Florida school custodian is being recognized for saving a boy's life. Student LaDarren Wiggins was rushing through his lunch when a piece of cheesy bread got stuck in his throat, causing him to choke.
Well, I was just in the cafeteria eating at my table, and then when I took the first part of my cheesy bread bite, some of the ooey gooey cheese part of it was stuck in my throat. So the custodian had to help me. He was patting me on the back, and then he had to do the highbrow lick. And so after like 6 or 7 pulls or 5, it popped right out.
Signs about the Heimlich maneuver, or highbrow lick if you prefer, dot the cafeteria at MacArthur Elementary School. Custodian Ontario Minor has seen them plenty of times. He sprung into action with the Heimlich maneuver. The whole school celebrated Ontario's quick actions with an in-house parade, leaving the LaDarren to enjoy the finer things in life once again.
A mission to retrieve 2 astronauts who spent months on the ISS didn't go as planned. SpaceX delayed the launch planned on Wednesday evening due to a ground system issue, but may try again tonight. A new crew will replace NASA's Suni Williams and Butch Wilmore, who spent 10 months on the ISS instead of 10 days after their Boeing Starliner was deemed unsafe to return. Bernie and Rory spotted together at the Kaseya Center for FIU night against the Clippers.
That's still ahead, and so is the story.
I can't believe it happened, but it did.
An unexpected visitor made himself at home. Newsbreak will be back in 2 minutes.
Really use a new tablet. I just don't have the money.
Let me ask you something. Do you have a Pell Grant?
Yes.
You do know you can get a free tablet, right?
Did you say free?
Yeah, free. It's simple. And the application is done in the store.
I could really use a tablet.
Go get one. Another satisfied customer. Stop by Pantotech in the Graham Center at FIU MMC today to speak with one of our associates to get your free tablet.
Type 2 diabetes can have a big impact on your life. But how can it be prevented? Well, the first step is knowing if you have something called prediabetes. Take the 1-minute risk test today at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Florida's known reptile making itself at home at a couple's house. While the Sunshine State has its visitors, one unusual guest chose to make itself at home.
As WBBH's Mohammed Abdul Kawi reports, the gator decided to barge into the living room by opening a hole within the screen door.
I can't believe it happened, but it did.
Paul Quinn will never forget what happened to him Sunday morning.
It's one of those things you don't think that it'll happen to you.
Instead of doing his usual routine, checking his email, he was being checked out by a gator inside his home.
I'm like, is that really an alligator in my living room or in the kitchen area here? And then he saw me and he started running. I'm like, oh crap, I got to deal with this today?
Paul was by himself at the time. He called 911 and waited 50 minutes for FWC to arrive and remove the gator. He kept his distance and quickly pulled out his phone.
Oh, he's got the chair.
You clearly see this guy didn't want to leave. But how did it get inside? The Quins tell me that they usually leave their doors open to get some extra breeze inside. The alligator wanted to make itself at home, busting through this screen and causing a commotion. Paul's wife, Mary Jo, rushed home to see if he was okay. He wasn't hurt, but had a few questions.
Why did it come to your house, MJ? And two, how much did animal control charge to take it away? I would have been ticked if there'd been a bill.
So the alligator grabbed the chair by the leg when the guy had him, was trying to wrestle him, get him out of here.
There was no bill, but the gator left a mark on this chair and left the Quins a souvenir, 2 of his teeth.
That made me nervous.
Now we got to get all the alligator slime out of the house.
But this won't stop the Quins from what Florida has to offer.
I don't want to have a fear of an alligator just walking up our front walk into our foyer again. I can't live like that. I live in Florida. I love living here. I'm not leaving.
Reporting in Gateway.
They always tell you to be careful, be mindful of the alligators. This is why.
Muhammad Abdul-Qawi, Gulf Coast News.
And after a disappointing loss against the Hornets at home, the Heat were looking to build some steam against the LA Clippers, but wasn't enough. The Clippers opened up the scoreboard with James Harden and Derrick Jones Jr. pushing the Clippers up early in the first quarter. But the Heat were stuck playing catch-up for almost the entire game, with Tyler Hero scoring 31 points and 7 assists, and Andrew Wiggins scoring 22 points and 5 assists. The final score was Clippers 119, Miami 104. The Heat will play against the Boston Celtics at home Friday at 7:30 p.m.
And that's all the time we have for Newsbreak. I'm Samantha Gutierrez.
And I'm Julian Liscano. Get more news anytime at caplinnews.fiu.edu.